depressing confession threads. I paralyzed my little brother while pulling a prank. When I was 11 and my younger brother was 9, I passed to the dark side. We used to regularly prank each other and the rest of our family. Most of the time it was harmless, like removing the light bulb from a closet and then jumping out to scare the person who came inside. We had a pretty good one where we would take all of the chocolate chip cookies out of the container and switch them with oatmeal raisin. Haha. There was one instance though that I crossed the line. I had just seen Home Alone and I had loved the idea of having this really extensive and detailed plans for a trap. I spent a week or two trying to come up with my own crazy plans, most of which were impossible because they involved some sort of catapult. But I did come up with one that I thought was ingenious, and I wanted to use it on my little brother. So while my brother was outside playing, I decided to set my trap. It started with me pouring shampoo and some water in a bucket. Then I took a whole bunch of glue and feathers and poured them all over the shower curtain in the bathroom. I removed the light bulb in the bathroom. Then I took the bucket of shampoo water and dumped it on the floor. My plan was to have my brother come into the bathroom, slip across the floor, and then either fall onto or grab the shower curtain for support. He would then be stuck to the shower curtain and be stuck with a feather cape. It was really stupid, and I was an idiot. Well, it worked. He came into the bathroom, slid across the floor, and hit it into the shower curtain. Only he didn't stop slipping. He slipped and hit the base of his neck on the edge of the bathtub. I don't remember much immediately after that. I think I blacked out. That was 15 years ago. My brother still can't walk. He's stuck in a wheelchair. He has almost no movement from the neck down. He can barely talk, and it is a struggle to get out 1 or 2 words. For me, the worst part is that he can still control his facial expressions pretty well. I apologize to him every day for years. I still do it fairly often now. He always has this look. He smiles and says, "It's okay." He smiles with his mouth, but not his eyes. I've seen him smile for real, but I can see the resentment in his eyes. I'm the worst person alive. I'm an idiot. My girlfriend committed S-word after I cheated on her. I then proceeded to tell her family and all of her friends that she had cheated on me. This happened 2 years ago. Basically, she was an angel, and I was a terrible boyfriend who took her for granted. She was too good to me, and for some reason, it made me resent her. I wanted to hurt her. So I brought a random girl into her apartment while she was at work. I had the key and she had given me permission to go in at any time. It made sure she caught me having intimacy with her when she came in. Of course, I made it seem like it was all her fault for not appreciating me. We were both in our mid-20s, and I thought this was just what I was supposed to do as a man. I thought that, as men, we all had an unspoken agreement is that we exist to torture women and pretend it doesn't happen. Anyway, I called her a worthless B-word and dumped her. 3 days later, she committed S-word. I told all of our family and friends that I had caught her in my bed/apartment with another guy, and that she freaked out when I wouldn't take her back. I turned the whole story around. The worst thing is that everyone believed it, as I knew they would. This only furthered my belief about women being inferior and existing to suffer. People always blame women for everything, even when it's clearly not their fault. Lately, I've been feeling guilty, and I don't know why. She's dead and gone, but she was really a good girl. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone said, "Wow, I'm kind of hoping that the reason you're beginning to feel bad about the situation is that you have taken a long, hard look at yourself and don't like what you see. If this is the case, then there's a slim chance of you growing as a human being and becoming a real man. At the moment, you're a liar, cheat, and a condescending bully. Maybe you're transferring your thoughts about yourself into women. Have you thought about therapy? It might help and in turn allow you to have an adult relationship in the future. I wish you well on your journey." Another person says, "They believe you because it's a believable story that people cheat. They believe you because you are one still here to tell the truth, unlike your girlfriend. She put enough faith in you that it literally destroyed her world when she saw the real you. I just wish all those around you could see you for the sociopathic, misogynistic wolf in sheep's clothing you are. Then maybe you'd change. She was a good girl and you are/were a bad person. You feel guilty, if you even do, because you were in fact guilty of some vile things. Truly admit to yourself your actions, realize the impact, become a better person than you are. You owe her that much at least." And another person says, "You should be the one who's dead. Some soul even slightly better than you is worth living. Remember this till the day you die. You don't deserve to live. You don't deserve happiness. Even death won't free you." Full of Reddit, have you ever killed anyone? If so, what were the circumstances? And one commenter says, "Throwaway for obvious reasons. When I was 12, I was babysitting for a family in my subdivision. There were 2 little girls and a baby. I had experience babysitting, but wasn't great with babies. I was real nervous and not the most responsible/adult kid anyway. The kids were sitting on the living room floor reading, and the baby started crying from her crib. I picked her up and took her into the kitchen to warm up her milk bottle in the microwave. I simply dropped her. I've been over this 1,000 times in my head, and there is no other way I can explain it. I dropped her, and her head hit the tile floor. She was very clearly dead immediately. The weirdest part is how calm I felt. Like I turned into a robot. I told the girls to go to the basement immediately and called my dad and told him what happened. Then I sat at the kitchen table for 10 minutes while he came over. He drove the girls to our house to be with my mom, then drove me and the body to the hospital. Obviously, nothing could be done. I was not charged because it was ruled an accidental death. There was a chance I could have been charged with criminally negligent manslaughter, but was not, in part because of my age. This was several decades ago, and I still feel it every day. I am a woman, and do not think I can ever have children because of it. The family moved, but until they did, I had to throw up every time I drove past their house or saw one of them in the community. And now let's get into some of the relevant comments. Someone says, "Holy shit, what was the family's reaction?" And the OP replies and says, "I did not have to deal with this much. My dad called them from the hospital. It was the middle of the afternoon and they were both at work. This was over the summer and both my parents were teachers. I know that it was not a good experience for him, but we have never really talked about it. My mom came and picked me up from the hospital, and my dad stayed while they came over. I will never be able to repay him for doing that. I think he thought I was 12 and it would not help to see the parents in hysterics. I saw them at the wake and funeral about a week after it happened. We were a middle-sized suburb, so people knew that it happened while I was sitting. But to the parents' credit, they never said anything nasty about me. Or at least I never heard anything like that. It was considered a tragedy in our community, and some kids at school called me baby killer and other real original stuff. But most people were sensitive enough to not say anything or just give me a hug/pity eyes. At the wake, the mom came up to me and hugged me and told me that she didn't blame me. That was pretty much the only time we spoke about it. They moved about a year and a half after it happened. And this next one is very, very disturbing. So viewer discretion is advised, and just trigger warning, this one is graphic. Let's get into it. I am an active predator. Before the morality police jump on me, I'll point out that this is the Confessions subreddit, and that I'm posting because I normally have to keep this a secret, and I felt like it'd just be liberating to just say openly what I'm into and what I do. And if you want to be R-word and judgmental, you can just go F off. I know that my preferences and actions aren't consistent with traditional morality, but of course that's all relative to culture. And it's just been my bad luck to live in a time and place where my preferences are considered taboo. So, I'm an active predator, which means that I regularly have intimacy with minors. My preference is between single digits and low teen years. And also, just another disclaimer, I will be censoring a lot. I am not getting into everything he said because truly, this is one of the worst confessions I have ever read, and it is just disgusting. I will not read everything. I will censor a lot of it, but I'll just get into the gist of it. But let's continue. Professionally, I am a minor psychologist. I have 2 PhDs, and I work part-time as an adjunct at a major research university. Obviously, it's part of my job to understand how minors think, and my work has put me in contact with hundreds of minors over the years. I have only had intimacy with a small percentage of them. Those whom I can be responsibly confident won't tell anyone, and whom I believe may enjoy the experience. And I'm going to skip a little bit, and he says, in general, I don't care whether my actions will harm the minor when I choose to get intimate with him or her. I have 2 daughters, both aged very young. I have never violated the older one, who's still a teenager. Their mother, my wife, died from breast cancer 3 years ago. The older one goes to a boarding school in Michigan where she studies flute. I have been having regular intimacy with the younger one since she was single digits. I don't necessarily prefer boys or girls. Both are attractive to me. I've always been attracted to minors since I myself was a minor. I guess as I grew older, I never stopped finding people of that particular age range desirable. I suppose I generally prefer consensual intimacy, although I also find forced scenarios also intriguing. I don't keep a tally, but I'd estimate that I've had some form of contact with 50 to 60 minors. And then he gets into graphic detail of the amount he's had full intimacy with, etc. I can't even say this, it's so gross. He says, I would classify 5 of those encounters as R-word, but the vast majority were in the gray area of consent. I suppose something that some readers may find interesting is that I have met several other predators who have similar preferences to mine. I suppose that many of you would be surprised about several things that I've learned in my interactions with other predators. First, about how many secret predators there are, how exceedingly common this preference is. And I'm not even going to read the second and third reason. And he says how easy it is to get away with it in a society that basically treats predators like witches. If anyone wants to ask me details, note, I will not stupidly reveal any identifying information, so don't bother trying to trick me into giving up my address. Then feel free to DM me, and I'd be happy to answer questions. And the OP's profile was shortly taken down after his post, but let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, this is one of those things you hope is a troll. If it's then, OP needs to die in a fire. I can't even begin to describe how sociopathic this whole thing reads. I was never abused. I had other shit, but not intimately. My stuff messed me up enough as it was. I can't even imagine what this could have done to the victims. And a lot of the other comments are just people also saying they're predators, and I think it's other people actually confessing to being a predator. It's horrific. It's disgusting. And this is what I say in every single video. I've included a predator confession. Like, there's so many predators out there. It's horrifying. Like, you guys truly need to be careful who you talk to on the internet, because you never know who they might be or what their intentions might be. And you just, if you're a parent or if you're a minor yourself, just be super careful about what your own kid is looking at on the internet, who they talking to, what websites are they using? Because, these people are everywhere, and it's disgusting. And that's why I usually like to include a predator confession, because then it just drives home the fact that there's so many out there, and you just need to be careful. Whether it's your little brother, little sister, your cousin, just please be checking on what they're doing online, because the internet is a dangerous place, and there is so many vile human beings on the internet. So yeah, just guys, stay safe, please. And all of these people need to rot in prison for the rest of their life. God, just beyond disgusting. Need advice on inheritance, arbitrage, family, etc. Please, I am becoming desperate. The Bitcoin boom has been wonderful for some people, obviously, but I am really struggling. Last year, my father passed away. My mother passed away from cancer many years ago. And my sister and I were left with a large inheritance. I am 23, and my sister is only 17. Parents had us when they were somewhat older. The inheritance was placed entirely in my control to be split between my sister and I. He did not want her to have access to the money until she turned 21. I am tasked with assisting her with college payments, etc. I chose to liquidate the majority of the assets and was left with around $750,000. I'm bitter about this because I was ripped off by a shifty individual taking advantage of my ignorance on some things. I should have gotten much more than I did. Well, I discovered Bitcoin a few years ago. I today greatly regret that the moment I liquidated the inheritance, I didn't place the entirety of it into Bitcoin. With Bitcoin on the verge of making it very, very big, I began performing arbitrage 6 months ago. The rising adoption has created volatility, which makes it very good for arbitrage. And for those of you who don't know what arbitrage is, it's basically just an investment or trading strategy for Bitcoin, or I guess stocks in general. But let's continue. I know of people that have made a lot of money doing this, but I have now lost a lot of money. I am consistently misjudging the movement of the markets. I buy in and sell, not holding any long-term positions. On the 19th, I bought 250 coins at $800. It was quickly rising, and I was worried I would not be able to buy in at that price ever again. Immediately after my purchase again, it began tanking. I tried to hold my position hoping it was just temporary and would return to $800 and increase from there. After hitting around $600, it began to increase again. I viewed this as reaffirming my projection. It rose again to around $700. I held my position into the 20th. It dropped to $500, and that was my sell point, hoping to minimize my losses. I lost $75,000 in an almost 24-hour period. This was my fastest and almost largest single trade loss. If I'd continued to hold, I would be able to sell right now with minimal losses. I have made money on trades, but overall the losses have kept me in the red. As of today, over the past 7 months, I have lost a total of $410,000. The inheritance was supposed to be split between my younger sister and I, giving us each $375,000 plus half of the house. Not worth much, rural area, etc. However, I don't have a legal obligation to provide her with half of the money. That was a verbal contract between my father and I. The in-writing legal stuff allocates it all to me. I made the mistake of telling her that I invested the money into Bitcoin. She has read the news, etc. on it, so she is under the assumption that there is a lot more money than there actually is. Regardless, I've already paid her first year of college tuition in cash anyway. This was around $30,000. I also bought her a used car to take to college, $5,000. We later found out they don't want freshmen to have cars, so we might sell it and I can give her that money. Ultimately, in addition to other living expenses, bills, car, etc., I have around $280,000 left, which is currently all liquid. Now, if you took the time to read all of that, thank you. I'm sorry it was so long. What I am looking for is advice on how to trade. How can I guarantee that I earn high returns? What are good resources on how to trade Bitcoin? Are there any good books? Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read the rest, but he's basically just asking for help. I know I can earn this money back. I just need to figure out how. Is there any experienced traders out there that is in need for funding? I'm willing to work out a deal where we can work together on this. I need to see a proven track record of success though. Thanks for your time. I know a lot of people are going to respond negatively to me. I know I fucked up. I really need advice though, so please don't downvote me just because I'm an idiot. And by the way, this post has 0 upvotes and a staggering 643 comments. And let's get into some of them. Someone says, the financial instrument is irrelevant here. You have a gambling problem and need a psychologist. And the OP says, I didn't and don't really consider what I am doing to be gambling. I am investing/day trading. It isn't like I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on scratch-off tickets. I was just unlucky in some of my trades. I'm not looking for magic bullet advice. I'm looking for proven strategies that have been shown to work. I know there are no guarantees. I really need to make this money back though. I have decided that if I get down to $150,000 that I will stop. Oh no. So I basically have $130,000 left to invest. I know it won't come down to that though. By stopping there, my sister and I can split $75,000 and be able to survive for a while since we don't have any parental assistance any longer. That will help her pay for another 2 years of school. She'll only have to acquire a little bit of debt to finish then. And oh my God, the OP has lost nearly $500,000 and he doesn't think he's gambling. Oh my God, this is really tragic. The sister is losing all of her inheritance. And the poor parents that put all of their trust into the OP here to take care of him and his sister. And he just fucked it all up. And someone says, give the entire $280,000 to your sister. You were supposed to be the responsible one. And someone else says, "The money is gone. Be a big boy, tell her what happened, and give her the rest. You made a deal with your dad. Now honor your end of the bargain as best as you can." And someone else says, "Man, I feel terrible for your sister. Please keep us updated as you piss away the rest of her inheritance." And someone else says, "Sorry to hear the loss of your parents at such a young age. You've been landed with heavy responsibilities, and you are acknowledging you failed. I can't say I know much about trading, but it sounds like you have a gambling problem. Trading your way out does not sound like a good idea. You say, 'I know I can earn this money back,' but you do not know that. You only hope it. You seem to acknowledge that it was your father's wish that your sister receive half the money. Can you really live with yourself if you go back on that? How much more of your sister's money will you risk before stopping? You have lost your part of the money, and some of hers too. By what you have said, it seems like you owe her $50,000 plus the remaining $280,000. If you want to be fair, I think you should own up to your sister. Let her decide what to do with it, where to invest it. She may be pretty pissed off with you, but you never really know what might happen. Your sister has lost her mother and her father. Do you really want her to lose her brother and her inheritance? Do the difficult thing, the fair thing. Talk to her." And many people say things such as, "You are a scumbag," or "You effing piece of shit." And a lot of people really feel that way, and I can't blame them. I agree. This OP went against his father's word, and now his sister doesn't have her inheritance, and he doesn't have his inheritance either. He wasted it basically gambling. And from how the OP is responding in these comments, it doesn't really look like he was going to stop. This was the last official post on the OP's profile, and so we don't know what ended up happening. Although in a few other threads, I did see that people are speculating that he lost all the money and he only got $15,000 from the house. And so I don't know if that's verified. I don't know if that's true, but some people have said the OP came back on a different profile. I can't find it. And he posted that he lost everything, which how he's acting here in the comments, it doesn't seem that far off. The OP says, oh, he's confident he's going to make it back and he's going to make it all back. But, you know, he really is just gambling. I mean, he lost $500,000 in 7 months. That's horrifying. And that was supposed to pay for his sister's education. And more likely than not, he ripped apart the remaining relationship with his sister. I mean, imagine finding out that your brother lost your entire inheritance from your father because he basically gambled it away. That was supposed to pay for your education and to set you up for a good life. And also, I just find it insane in the first place that the OP felt the need to have to day trade with this money. Like, was $750,000 not enough money? Like, that's life-changing money for anybody. And for whatever reason, he decided that wasn't enough and he needed more. I mean, truly, the OP here is just a greedy dirtbag who lost his entire inheritance, or allegedly his entire inheritance, because that's what people were saying. But, I mean, he lost more than half of it, so it's just horrible. It really is horrible, and this is just super, super depressing because, yeah, like I said, from the other people speculating in threads, he lost all of it, and he sold the house for only $15,000 because he had to pay back some money, and he was left with basically nothing. I don't know if that's true, but like I said, I kind of believe it. And everybody in this post was saying, please give your money to your sister, or give the remaining inheritance to your sister, but I mean, it doesn't seem like he did. And yeah, this was a really depressing thread, and I'm sure he ripped apart the relationship with his sister. And I wonder where he is today. I was in prison for 7 years. I saw a man die there horribly. I was a really, really shitty person. once upon a time. I was driving drunk at 22 and hit someone and killed them. I served 7 years for manslaughter. I'm not proud of it, and it's my greatest shame in my life. I try to just live each day a little bit better than before, and live in such a way that I make amends for the life I took. In prison, I tried to take advantage of a lot of the programs there. I learned how to be an electrician, but it wasn't a great place. I was in Max for the first 2, but I got moved there due to good behavior. That maximum security prison was the most terrifying place I've ever been. Most of the guys are serving 10+ year sentences for super violent shit and know they're gonna die there, so they got nothing to lose. I was put there because I killed someone, and the minimum security prison was full at the time. I survived by just keeping my head down and minding my own business. If I saw something going down, I kept my mouth shut. I managed to get assigned to laundry duty, which was one of the best jobs. I was carrying a full load of dirty shit one day, about a year in, when I came into the laundry room and saw a group of guys holding a guy down and stabbing them over and over. Unfortunately, they heard me and their leader turned to me and looked at me while holding the knife in his hand. He calmly said, "What do you see here?" I looked around and said, "Nothing but laundry." He walked right up to me, looked me dead in the eye and said, "You see anything else?" I said, "No, sir. Nothing at all." He nodded and said, "You should go then." I turned on my heel and walked out while that dude was lying there bleeding out and gurgling. Obviously, the guards asked me about it since I was working, and that guy was found dead in my work area just outside the camera range. I told them I didn't see anything. They offered to make petitions to get me time off my sentence or even get me out of Max. I didn't budge. I told them I didn't see nothing or know nothing. I knew that they wouldn't move me soon enough, and if I was found out as a rat, they'd probably do worse to me. They were pissed because they knew I had to know something, but thankfully, they didn't punish me. Thankfully, I got transferred to minimum security the next year due to good behavior, and Max was getting crowded. Things were a lot more chill there, but I never told anyone about what I saw that day. Eventually, I got out and got a job and started getting my life back on track again. I'm doing better now, but that shit is definitely still with me, but I'm more haunted by the man I killed. I joined AA and go every week, and just got my 5-year chip, and I've been seeing a counselor a lot. I don't think I can ever make amends, but I'm trying to put good out there now. I am a convicted predator, and this is what I want the public to understand. A common misconception about predators is that they are all heartless, violent R-wordists. If there was an organization that could send public messages anonymously to try and raise awareness about the truth about many predators, what would you like to say from a personal perspective? Here's what I would like to say. I'm a predator, but I didn't ask to be this way. I just am. I don't have a cold heart, and I'm not motivated to intentionally cause any harm to anyone. I am as nice and empathetic as anyone, but sometimes get strong desires to do bad things. Due to the judgment, hate, and misconceptions about all of us, I feel very isolated in this world and that nobody can help and support me. This makes me feel very depressed and more likely to get into worse situations. If I were not so discriminated, I might feel more motivated to deal with my problems as best as I can. Sadly, there is not enough help for us kind of people, or anywhere near enough research into this kind of problem. If there was safe help, even for people without convictions, much like there is for those with drug addictions, I feel this kind of problem could be made better for many. Although, let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "You say you don't have a cold heart or intentionally want to hurt anyone, yet you've acted on these urges. While you may truly believe your own bullshit, You know exactly what this does to young minors emotionally, mentally, and physically. This would be different and easier to believe had you not acted on your urges, but you did, and as the victim of a predator, I would just like to say, fuck you. And someone else says, you idiot, you are convicted. That says you did horrible things. Go rot in hell, MFer. Killed someone, told nobody. Throwaway account for obvious reasons, and I'm pretty drunk right now, so please take that into account. Luckily, there is an autocorrect on the Reddit website, so I won't look like a total idiot, except for what I'm about to describe. I've actually told 2 people what has happened. The first person was a pastor from a church I don't frequently go to, and the other was a chaplain who does reach outs to civilians from one of the military facilities I work near. Not going to mention which. But I've never actually told this to anyone else, and I feel empty and want outside input. Not just someone who'll tell me everything is going to be okay, and that I was acting in self-preservation, blah, 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 blah. I want obvious input, and so I kind of want to reach out here for some of that. This happened a few months back, and if you look into the police reports, I don't even know how you do that. You'll have, hopefully, a hard time figuring out when and who it was. I went out one of the mornings I was off work to grab some beer from the local brewery. They make amazing amber lagers, and I was having a good time of it that day. It was around 10:30 a.m., and when I left, I saw this weird dude talking on his cell phone in the Jeep, looking at me like I didn't have pants on or something. Anyways, I left and thought it was weird. I get back to my apartment complex like 20 minutes later, beer in tow, and this guy was at my front door. He didn't seem to be paying attention to me, and as I approached, I could see he was trying to break in. He had this metal shank looking thing and was punching my doorknob with it. Anyways, whatever he was doing was not normal, and I freaked out. I walked up and grabbed him by his shirt collar and pulled him hard from the door because I literally did not know what else to do. I should have called the cops, I know, and I look back on that situation now thinking about what I could have done differently almost every day it seems. My door is 2 stairs up from the concrete walkway, and when I pulled him, he lost his balance and I basically ended up throwing him to the ground. His head hit the concrete and he fell unconscious. Or at the time, what I thought was unconscious at least. I freaked out and went inside. I sat in my chair in the living room, freaking out about what happened. I didn't really know what was going on, and for some reason, I kept thinking about how weird it was my beer was on the ground outside and was gonna get warm. I have no idea why that was my main focus, but it kept coming back to my mind over and over and over again. Anyways, about a half later, I went outside my door, and since nobody else was around, I grabbed my beer and drove away to escape the situation. I honestly thought that guy would wake up and leave, and it would never be an issue. When I drove away, I could see there was some blood on the ground, but I didn't look too closely. He was still laying there, though. I came back several hours later, and when he was still there, I called the police. They sent out an ambulance and like 4 cops showed up. I gave them a report and someone, I don't remember who, I wasn't paying attention, took the body away. To this day, I don't know how to feel about it. I can't help but feeling like I'm a monster for not telling people, but I was also trying to protect myself and my wife. I've not even told her about it, and she was in the basement the whole time playing games or something. What should I do? Who do I talk to about this? Should I turn myself in? Is it already too late? And let's get into the top comments. Someone says, he obviously had intent to do harm. You're in no fault, dude. Don't beat yourself up about it. You didn't have the intention of killing him. He brought it upon himself. And the OP replies and says, I appreciate the sentiments and I understand rationally, but it doesn't make me feel that much better, to be honest. And someone else says, turn yourself in. The only reason that would make sense is if you lied to the police initially, because they would have already charged you with murder, or at the very least manslaughter. If you told them the truth and they haven't charged you, you're legally in the clear. I'm 24 and facing life in prison. It has been almost 9 months now since I got arrested on the charge I'm currently out on $1 million bond for. On February 28th, I was charged with first-degree assault, burglary, kidnapping, all Class A felonies, 2 counts of armed criminal action, unclassified 3 to 99 years, and unlawful possession of a firearm, Class C. I am a twice convicted felon, so all of my felonies were enhanced. In Missouri, we have what's called prior and persistent offenders, our version of the 3 strikes law. On the 30th of April, I found a bondsman who would take 40 grand, or 4% of my bond, though I was actually initially released on just 1.5%, or $15,000. I've been on 24/7 house arrest since then, with my next court date being in January. No sign of when this will be wrapped up yet, and to be honest, I kind of like it that way. They have me totally locked down, and I can't even work. The only case in which I can leave the house are either medical or to see my lawyer, which with the pandemic going on, obviously I can't really take up either of those options either. I'm not complaining at all. Not mad at the system. Not feeling the least bit vindictive for that matter. I've had plenty of time to make peace with myself and those close to me. Honestly, I'm just bored. Lonely. I don't really have any friends anymore. Everyone I associated with was a lowlife and I can't do it anymore. I am 9 months clean and turned 24 on the 13th of this month. If anybody has any questions or advice for me, it would mean a lot. It would be nice to be able to get some of this off my chest. Thank you in advance for your interest if you care to engage. Hit me with anything. I've heard it all. I can take criticism. And let's get into the top comments. Someone says, so what's the story? And the OP says, I'm accused of firing rounds at an individual in an attempted armed robbery/burglary. There were 2 other people involved. Let's just say, it didn't go like they're saying. I don't really even remember the day all too well. I know I was far too drunk to do what they're saying I did. Hell, I was asleep when the cops surrounded my car and arrested me, pulled me out, and beat the shit out of me. Another user says, I would just find a way to leave the country and start a new life somewhere. Find somewhere remote and take on a new identity and call it a life. And the OP responds and says, I could. I honestly really could. The problem is, for one, I'm broke. And also you gotta understand we're talking about a $1 million bond here. I may have paid the bondsman to personally get me out of jail, but if I run and flee, my cosigner has to pay the $1 million. It's tempting, but ultimately, I couldn't do that to my mom and dad. And also, I want to spend as much time with them as possible. My grandma as well. She's 90 and is sick, but thankfully she's beating it like a champ. This moment of lockdown is a time to reflect and try to establish myself as a respectable individual too. And someone else says, if you did what you're charged with plus prior felonies, to be honest, you deserve it. If you didn't, then I'd do whatever I can to get out of the country if I were convicted, but still had to go to the prison myself. Anything is better than life in US prison. And the OP responds and says, it's hard to get across to people how much charges change and how they're always trumped up at the beginning. They grasp for straws. You know what the kidnapping was? My female codependent on this case told the police that I was planning on tying the victims up in the closet. Literally hearsay. And no one was kidnapped. It wasn't even talked about. In fact, I didn't even know where I was. I was so drunk and effed up, I, to this day, can't identify the faces of any of the victims. I believe that's because I never even saw a thing. Occam's razor tells me I was asleep, considering I was completely uncoordinated. The kid with me was driving the car and holding onto my grandpa's pistol, the one used in the shooting. The shooting, by the way, the assault charge, somebody fired 3 rounds into the bottom of the glass door, apparently because he said they owed him money. Silly. The bullets were from a .25 and didn't even penetrate through the second layer of glass. No excuse for my behavior. Nobody was hurt, thank God. Does that excuse me being there? Having a weapon of my family's in the car, not for robberies? No, absolutely not. I should have been at home, resting, not accompanying someone to some shit I wasn't even aware of. Stupid. Plus, those kids were terrorized, possibly traumatized. That is something I will have to live with for the rest of my life, whether I did anything or not. Thank you for the comment. God bless. And someone else says, I've been arrested and gone to prison. They will charge you with everything you did, but only convict you of a couple charges if you take the plea deal. Previous felony convictions don't give you enhancements. Now, if they were for the same charges or you went to prison, you were already convicted of them, yeah, you get the enhancement if you went to prison. But since you had a firearm as a felon, then you will do a minimum of 10 years, and they will most likely be giving you at least 1 strike since there was an assault and kidnapping, since you had the gun during the crimes. Gun charge will most likely stand, and so will the kidnapping and assault. They may or may not drop the armed criminal action and burglary. If a strike, you will get at least 20 years at 85%, first strike. Then 90% second strike, and 100% third strike with a minimum of 25 to life. It all demands on your past and how bad the crimes were. But from my experience, there will be at least a sentence of 20 years if no strike. You will serve 5 if you keep your good time credits. If you run, you will get the maximum plus of 5 years. And it seems like the OP, what he said in his previous post about a lot of them won't stick, reigned true, because he kept posting on and off the next few years, although it didn't look so hot. He made a few posts about talking about drugs and saying how he was struggling with drug addiction, and one of his last posts on his profile says, I just tried C drug for the first time, and wow. And I'm just going to read the first sentence, but it says, so following a 6-day long binge of crystal and highly pure booger sugar, I somehow found myself with a C head in my car. And he gets into it, but it looks like he's gone downhill ever since this post of him facing life in prison. And so what I assume happened is the charges he was charged with just didn't stick, because like he said, he didn't probably do anything. He was just with someone. And so most likely he got just dropped and he didn't have any sort of criminal charges against him. But it looks like he spiraled and got into drug addiction. And like I just read, was doing hard drugs. And he hasn't posted in over a year, almost 2 years. And so who knows where the OP is, but man, that was a bad spiral. And his Reddit description even says, I don't really exist anymore, or I'm not supposed to. If I do, I'll be hunted down. And so I go back and forth between the here and now and the hereafter. It's much nicer on the other side. So who knows what that means? Does that mean he's on the run maybe? I don't know, because he says, no one knows I exist anymore. And if they do, I'll be hunted down. And so maybe he's on the run, or who knows, but very strange spiral. What do you guys think? My best friend OD'd, and I can't help but feel responsible. I'm not sure if this is the right place for this, but the mods can remove it if it's not. I'm 25 male, and my best friend OD'd about 6 months ago. He was only 24. I'll call him Leo. He was hooked on booger sugar, weed, and all other kinds of pills. One of them was some weird Russian cosmonaut drug he said they gave to astronauts. Crazy stuff. He bought everything on the dark web and was seriously good with computers. He was such a smart, funny, and amazing guy. I always wished he'd put that brain to better use. Leo had always struggled with addiction, just like his dad. He told us his dad was a deadbeat addict who had died years ago. He never went into much detail, and I never pushed him. I figured that's where his addictive side came from. We started experimenting really young, around mid-teenage years, with all sorts of pills, weed, and booger sugar. It screwed up a lot of us. I still fight with my K addiction now and then. Leo's main thing was booger sugar though. He'd do massive amounts, stay up for days, get into crazy debt, and get super paranoid. At one point, he owed 1,200 euros to some guy who had just got out of prison. He moved away for a while to try and get clean. For 2 or 3 years, nobody heard from him. When he came back to our hometown, he seemed sober. He was running, seeing a counselor, and actually looked happy. He'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but it was under control at the time. It felt like I had my best friend back. We'd game together like old times and talk conspiracy theories all night long. If Leo called you at 1 a.m., you knew you were in for a long one. After a few months, he started using again. Just small amounts while gaming at first. I warned him, but he said it wouldn't be a problem, and I believed him. Then he started taking sleeping tablets to come down after booger sugar binges. It went from a few grams to a lot of grams. He was funding it by gambling his benefits and by buying extra booger sugar to sell so he could use the profit himself. Things got really bad. He had a hole in his nose you could put a finger through, constant nosebleeds, and he was popping loads of pills. His daily routine was brutal. Wake up around 5 p.m., do a ton of booger sugar, sell through the night, take all of his pills around 4 or 5 a.m., smoke some weed, and pass out. He was still living with his mom, and she kept telling him to stop. We all did. I wish I'd done more to help. The weekend it happened, some stuff went down that still feels off to me. He got robbed at his back door by someone he thought he could trust. That destroyed him, and he went on a massive booger sugar binge. I was texting and calling him nonstop. I loved him like a brother. Then he went quiet. His mom had said she was getting his uncle from Ireland to come take him away and sort his head out. I told him it might be a good idea, but he didn't want to hear it. The night before the uncle was supposed to show up, Leo stopped answering his phone. A couple days later, we heard there'd been a police car at his mom's house. Some friends went round to knock on the door and ask what was going on. His mom opened it and just said, "He's dead," before slamming the door in our faces. He'd done his usual routine, taken his sleeping pills after the booger sugar, gone into the kitchen to roll a joint, and OD'd right there on the floor. Legs crossed, weed half rolled in his hands. His mom found him like that the next morning. I knew exactly what he was taking and how dangerous it was. I stood by and didn't do enough. Now he's gone. Later, we found out the uncle was actually his dad, the one he'd said was dead all those years. He must have really hated him. That question still eats at me. Did Leo do it on purpose because his dad was coming to take him away? He was smart. He knew all the dosages inside out. He'd even told me the lethal amounts to try and reassure me when I worried. I'll probably never know if it was an accident or if he chose to go. Maybe that's for the best. A month before he died, my girlfriend and I had split up. I still loved her. Leo told me he'd help me get her back. After he passed, she saw the fundraiser for his funeral and reached out. We're back together now. In a weird way, he kept his promise. But I'll always feel like I let him down. Rest in peace, brother. See you on the other side. I robbed a man of $15,000 and don't feel bad about it at all. Okay, it all starts about 5 years ago as I worked as a cashier at a gas station. Every day, about 4 p.m., a certain construction worker would come in and flirt with me. Even after several days of me telling him I don't feel comfortable with him doing that, after his persistent flirting, he proceeds to buy lottery tickets. Today, he bought a ticket and won the exact amount of money he bought the original ticket for back. He tells me to buy another card with that money, and out of nowhere, the dude won $15,000. At the time, I was shocked, but I kept a straight face. I then told him the card wasn't worth anything, and he never questioned me as he left the store. He won't ever know, but I hope this is karma to him for being a douche. I still have the ticket, and I'm not sure what to do with it. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "You're a shitty person if you actually think you can justify stealing $15,000 of a dude who wouldn't stop flirting with you. If this dude comes back regularly, give him his damn ticket." And someone else says, "You're a loser, and I wish the worst for you." And someone else says, "I seriously hope you don't plan to cash it in. Not only is what you did wrong, and in no way karma for someone being pushy and rude in their flirtations, but you realize this sub has over 1 million subscribers, right? Not to mention people that come here by chance aren't subs. What you did was illegal, and you already run a risk of being caught, even before you confess to what you did online in a public forum. If someone was motivated, they could easily trace this back to you. Whether you apologize to him and give it back and hope to God he forgives you and doesn't try and press charges is your prerogative. But please don't try and benefit from this monetarily when what you've done is theft." Wife of 15 years admitted to cheating. I am dead inside. My wife and I have been together for 15 years. She recently admitted to cheating on me. It was early in the relationship, maybe around the first year. We were in a rough patch. It was bad for a few weeks, but eventually we made up and everything was fine again. We spent the next 15 years building a life together. During that time, we both went back to school and received 2 degrees, 4 total between us. We moved in together. We got engaged. We got married. We bought a house. We had kids. And then one day she calls me into the room. She's sitting on the couch. She's crying. I don't know why. She tells me, totally out of the blue, that she cheated on me. It was during that rough patch in the first year. She just couldn't hold it in anymore. She wanted there to be no secrets between us. I wasn't mad. That was a little strange. I thought I should feel outraged. I figured it was because I loved her so much. Love conquers all, so I thought that I forgave her. I did feel a strange, subtle sensation. I didn't understand it at the time, so I ignored it. As the days and months went on, I started to lose interest in things that I enjoyed. I stopped doing projects around the house. I didn't talk much to my wife. I was just kind of going through the motions. It gets a tiny bit worse every single day, almost imperceptibly so. Now I understand what that feeling was. That weird, subtle twinge deep inside me. It was my heart breaking. I am hopelessly depressed. My marriage is a sham, and my life is a lie. I've spent my entire adult life pouring everything I had into this relationship, only to find out that she poisoned it way back at the starting line. I don't want much out of life. My parents split up when I was very little because one of them cheated, and I had a terrible childhood because of it. My goal in life, ever since I was a teenager, was to rebuild the life that was taken away from me so that one day I could give it to my eventual children. And I had done it. I married the woman that I loved. We lived in a nice house in a good school district, and we had healthy, happy kids. Most people go through life without ever realizing their dreams. I achieved mine before I was 30. And now the dream is a nightmare. That home is a prison. I get up every morning and convince myself to live the life for one more day. I don't know what to do. Edit. Wow. I really didn't expect so much feedback. Thanks to all who have taken the time to respond. Even the trolls. Some of this stuff made me laugh. I still don't know what we're gonna do. There is a lot of different advice here, and that has given me a lot of perspective. I think that's what I need the most right now. If nothing else, you guys have given me some new ways to think about this, so thank you to everyone who has given me legitimate support no matter which side you fall on. I guess there is also some confusion about the timeline. If anyone is interested, the wedding and the starts of our family were both before age 30. I am pushing 40 now.